All right, feeling fresh on Tuesday here.
Yeah,
Thanks for being out. Excuse me. Thanks for being out here. Please bear with my voice. I am recovering from a lost voice, a little long President's Day weekend, let's just say. But that said, we're still going to have a great talk here, and I've got Sam and myself. We're going to be talking about pieces for developers, but primarily managing the developer chaos in an era of generative AI, where everything seems to be moving just a bit faster. So I'm Tsavo Knott, technical co-founder and CEO at Pieces. I will say CEO is absolutely a job if you were here earlier. Anyone who thinks it's not a job, it's quite insane, especially if you're a technical co-founder. And we've got Sam. Sam, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Sam Jones. I'm the Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer at Pieces. And I don't know, I describe myself as a passionate generalist. I've had lots of careers. I've been fascinated with consciousness, basically, from a very early age. Studied philosophy, segued into artificial intelligence, and yeah, really excited to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing at Pieces.
That's right. All right, cool. Well, let's get into it. You know, at a super high level, the next 10 minutes or so are going to be an overview for the deeper talk that we're doing, not only on building products that really chip away at the nuances of developer productivity, but also how we build products from a fundamental perspective, incorporating machine learning and AI across macOS, Linux, and Windows, both directly on device for air-gapped environments like the cloud, air-gapped environments like the DoD or banks or things like that, but also cloud environments, leveraging larger language models. We'll talk about classic machine learning, vision processing, large language models, and productionization of all those things. But real quick, let's get into what we're building. We're a Series A startup. It's weird saying that. We closed our Series A funding last week, which was wild. So yeah, we'll see at the B. It was a solid 9-figure round. So building some developer tools now. But that said, you know, what are we in the relentless pursuit of when it comes to developer workflows and things that are quite frustrating in the day-to-day? And you know, to put it plainly, for us, we feel this kind of impetus occurring now, where we are becoming required to move faster, right? So before generative AI, I can tell you I might have wrote like 3 or 4 languages. I maybe worked on 4 or 5 projects, and I worked on a few cross-functional teams. Now with generative AI, I'm working on 5 or 6 languages. I'm working on 7 or 8 projects, and I'm working with 9 to 10 cross-functional teams. And so from my perspective as a developer, boots on the ground day to day, everything feels like it's speeding up, and it feels like I'm interacting with a lot more material. And so, you know, if you think about that, going from 3 to 4 languages that I knew well to 5 or 6 languages cross-platform, that's a lot more documentation. That's a lot more CI/CD pipelines. That's a lot more conversations across the entire company. And so in reality, I'm starting to feel this kind of presence of too much to capture, too many dots to connect, and too little time, right? And so, you know, that note-taking process, that aggregation process, that capturing of what is important, why I might need it later, and for who I might share it with, all of that feels to be decreasing, even though the speed of my projects is increasing, and same with the volume. And so, you know, for us, we set out on this journey to first have a place for you to save things, right? Fire and forget the important materials, capture that context, a place for humans to save. And then kind of the second component there is you want to be able to naturally and conversationally interact with those things. And the third component, which we'll talk about today later on in our breakout session, is this idea that pieces can save for you, this idea that both humans and AI have a need to save for long-term recall. And so, you know, we really want to fix the idea that at the end of the day, when you close your Chrome browser or your Safari browser or whatever browser with 50 tabs open, you have all the projects that you can imagine on your desktop, you lose this work-in-progress journey. And to give you an idea of what that looks like visually, this is one of our developers, his day-to-day desktop, right? He's got 4 instances of IntelliJ. He's got GitHub. He's got browser tabs open over there. He's got GChat. These are the pillars of his workflow, right? And we are looking to build a cohesion layer or a tool between tools of those pillars, right? And so what you're doing in your IDE, writing, refactoring code, what you're doing in the browser, problem solving, researching, architecting, and what you're doing in a collaborative environment like GChat or Teams or Slack, how can we capture those dots for you to aggregate them, understand why they're related, and then surface them back to you, write things at the right time. So this interconnection, right, at an era where everything is moving faster, becoming more cross-functional, and just seems a bit chaotic for humans to keep up with. Our thesis here is that there's going to be a deepening asymmetry between the way that AI informs how you work and the way that you used to work, and therefore a fundamental shift in how developers build things. And so we want to build a tool that is helpful along the way. I will hand it over to Sam to go through some of our agenda and some of the deeper kind of technical topics that we're going to get into, which is AI in production across macOS, Linux, and Windows.
Absolutely. Before we start, have we got any ML engineers here? Are there any?
There we go.
Fantastic.
Let's go.
So this is going to be quite high level, but I would love for you two to come along to our breakout session, and we can dive into it. But yeah. What are we going to talk about? So material enrichment pipelines. What is that? So you're saving lots of things from all these different pillars of your workflow. And what we initially wanted to do was to take those things, tag them, label them, use them to generate metadata, which would then allow us to better resurface them. And initially, we did this with a whole gamut of models and frameworks, and that was successful, but it led to a huge number of challenges and technical debt. And so, yeah, we're going to start off by talking a little bit about how we managed that and how we moved from this sort of grand variety of different models and different features towards a sort of more cohesive, easier system to test. And then, well, what happened was we'd stabilized that, and then GPT 3.5 came out, and I'm pretty sure that everybody sort of had to pivot a little bit with that or use it in some way. And so, yeah, we're going to then talk about how we integrated those kind of large cloud-based language models into our stack, and how we took advantage of them to build some of the sort of smaller on-device technical specialists, I guess, that we now serve. And yeah, around that, obviously, there's a huge amount of infrastructure. And so we're going to talk to you a little bit about the runtimes we used, how we accelerate these models, how we test them. And then finally, we've got some really, really exciting stuff to talk to you about, and that's sort of where we're heading now, where we're heading next, which is all about the sort of automated capturing. So you're no longer telling us what you want to save. We're inferring that for you, and then surfacing that information back to you for our co-pilots. So yeah, that's the sort of overview of what we're going to talk about. It's going to be really interesting, and I'd love for you all to come.
We'd love to have you out there. And Sam is going to be going kind of on the technical side, but also, too, we're going to refer it back to product, right? I think that one of the largest questions out there is, okay, you've got all these technical capabilities. How do you ensemble them in a way that makes sense and is complementary across the user experience, right? And so we've been building an AI-based product for the last 3.5 years. We have a whole variety of kind of techniques. We have to make sure this is stable and effective and performant and secure across macOS, Linux, and Windows. And so we'll take a look at things like micro models. We'll take a look at things like large language models. We'll take a look at things like vision processing and how can we do this all on device in a performant and energy efficient way, or how can we leverage the cloud and scale it out across your org. So we've got a really exciting talk. And yeah, just on bullet point number 1, we started out, we're like, when I take notes, I hate to label things. I hate to tag, I hate to title, I hate to just do all that. Ken Pieces do that for you when you save something. So it's really about the user experience, the stuff that takes time. Can you solve that with machine learning in clever implementations? So we're looking forward to having you in the breakout session. It'll be really exciting. We'll show you some awesome product, and we'll definitely field some questions. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. I think that's probably that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Give them a round of applause, please.